And the last of a series of reports from North Korea. Tony Cheng explores the long road ahead for any potential reunification.
Looking optimistically from both sides of a great divide, the monument to national reunification in the capital of North Korea, Pyongyang. And although divided for more than 60 years, the government of the DPRK has high hopes for next month's summit with the South.
I think that this summit will contribute to developing the relationship between the two countries and will ultimately realize the unification of Korea.
Reunification seems a long way off when you're down at the demilitarized zone that divides these two countries. One of the most heavily mined places on Earth, the only exchanges that take place here are frigid stares across the border. But October's summit comes at a time when the North really seems to be more open than ever before to discussion. It was in this hut in 1953 that a temporary ceasefire was signed between the DPRK and United Nations forces. But technically, the war is still going on. It's hoped at the very least that this summit will lead to a permanent ceasefire between the two Koreas. That permanent ceasefire must be agreed upon by the United States. And as we're shown around by the Korean People's Army, they're keen to emphasize North Korea's peaceful intentions. They say the only obstacle to reunification is the presence of US troops across the border in the south.
It is our attitude that we should reunify Korea by our nation's efforts without the interference of the outside world. That's why there's no reason for the US troops to stay in South Korea.
And as he talked, the original ceasefire document sat on the table. But what do the Americans have to say about ending the war?
I said it's up to Kim Jong-il as to whether or not we're able to sign a peace treaty to end the Korean War. He's got to get rid of his weapons in a verifiable fashion.
This rather unexpected statement from US President George Bush seemed to catch the South Korean president unprepared. A peace treaty would be a big trophy in the South Korean presidential elections later in the year, but it might be Bush's presidential concerns that decide if a permanent ceasefire is signed.
For his own motivation and motivation for his administration, overwhelming need is to win some major foreign policy success in the whole of the extremely difficult situation in the Middle East.
Total reunification is less likely, and on the busy streets of South Korea you can see why. Affluent and advanced, there's a lot more than just distance that separates Pyongyang and Seoul. It's estimated that the wealth gap that divides these two countries is as much as 20-1. And if they were to join together, South Korea could be bankrupt within 5 years. That's bad news for the commuters on Pyongyang's old and overcrowded subway. Reunification is probably the only chance the impoverished and technologically backwards North has to advance. But even if little steps are taken at October's summit, it's going to be a long time before the North Koreans here can travel non-stop to Seoul. Tony Cheng, Al Jazeera, Pyongyang.